If you think the thumbnail or the title of this video are clickbait and you don't really believe the quantum threat that now exists, then listen up, because I need you to listen up for the next 20 minutes. And the reason is because we've always known that quantum is a threat for crypto. In fact, it's been one of the biggest threats for crypto. But if Google's announcement is right, then the threat may have been brought back a lot closer. We've always thought that quantum computing may happen and it may be 5, 10, maybe 15 years away. But yesterday, Google made an announcement which sounded a very big alarm. And their alarm says, if you read this part of it, it says, Google now flags 2029 as a key deadline to upgrade Bitcoin's cryptography before quantum computing becomes a threat. And that announcement comes on the back of technological breakthroughs that they've made, or claim to have made, which specifically look at cracking the code or cracking the algorithms behind Bitcoin's algorithms. And what it says, Google's quantum team says cracking Bitcoin may require less than 500,000 qubits, far below the millions once assumed. Research suggests that an attack could take 9 minutes. And if that doesn't scare you, well, you need to know that Bitcoin has a 10-minute blockdown, which means that you can now start getting attacks on Bitcoin whilst the transactions are in the meme pool. In other words, before the transaction actually goes through. So today we're going to be talking about this quantum threat. We're going to be talking about how big the threat is and whether this 2029 date is a real date or whether this is just more panic mongering. And listen, today is a show that you really want to listen to, especially if you have been worried about the threat of quantum for Bitcoin and for crypto. So big show today, guys. Let's get the show on the road. All right, so we've always known that quantum computers was going to be a threat, and we've always said that it's going to happen in 5, 10, or 15 years down the line. But yesterday, Google sounded a very big alarm. And in fact, in this big alarm, what they're saying is Google updates their own quantum migration deadline for 2029, okay? And it says here, last month, we called to secure the quantum era before the future quantum computer can break current encryption. This timeline reflects migration needs for the PQC, for the post-quantum era, in light of progress on quantum computing hardware development, quantum error correction, and quantum factoring resource estimates. So one of the biggest risks to Bitcoin and cryptography is now being moved back into a much closer time frame. So that's what we're going to be discussing today. I've got someone today who is, you could say, a quantum expert. He's certainly a cryptography expert and has big views on quantum computing. He's going to be joining us to basically help us unpack that. I'm not going to wait too long. But what I'm asking you guys is, if you are here and it's your first time here, subscribe to the channel. I do know that a lot of you guys aren't actually subscribed. And if you are subscribed and you want to help us get circulation of the content, smash the like button. That's really all you have to do. All right, so I'm not going to delay this anymore. I think I'm actually just going to bring on Kostas. Kostas, how are you, my friend?
Good to see you guys. Good to see you, Ran. I'm good. All of us are actually a bit worried originally from what Google actually published, but at the same time, when I read through that, come on, man, it's an overstatement.
Okay, so let's talk about what Google actually published. I think that's probably a very big starting point. Essentially, what they're claiming is that the number of qubits that are required, I mean, for people who don't know how quantum computing works, effectively it's a function of qubits, how many qubits you can run, right, together whilst trying to solve a problem. And what they're saying is, as you put more qubits together, the system becomes more unstable, right? Which is why quantum computing doesn't work. But what they're saying now is that you require a whole lot less qubits in order to solve certain algorithm. And because you require less qubits, then you can solve the problem much quicker. And that's the concern. So the concern is not that the computers are getting stronger, but that you require less qubits to actually solve the problem, right?
Yeah, this is a general argument from the Google side, but I will probably urge people to read the details on that stuff. So typically with the current computers now, we can do some operations in a way that both Bitcoin and Ethereum, 𝗠𝗏, all of the blockchains are unbreakable, right? We don't know of any mathematical way with a classical computer to break these things. If there was a hypothetical computer, what Google did was actually a 5, in my opinion, element path to be able to break cryptography in the next few years. A bit overestimated, in my opinion, regarding the order of magnitudes of progress we had very recently, but also something that people should understand. When we say qubits, we have to distinguish between the logical qubits and the physical qubits. What are the physical qubits? Imagine whatever we're using, like ions, photons, other stuff. We concentrate them in an isolated environment that it's not affected by the cosmic radiation, the temperature, everything around you. And then eventually, all of these computations that we do internally, they result to logical qubits, something that is now logic, right? From the physical atoms, photons, ions, you go to logical. The 1200 to 1400 qubits that they mentioned, it's not something new. We knew for the last few years, I believe, since 2019 or something, we know that we're pretty much about 1500 to 2300, and then Google managed to reduce it by some thousands or some hundreds, of logical qubits. But this doesn't change the order of magnitude, right? Where today we're almost, 5 logical qubits or something that is very, very small, which in my opinion is the biggest misunderstanding in this situation. Yes, a small improvement here of a few hundred logical qubits, but it's not an order of magnitude. Imagine since 2000 to 2026, we only managed to move, maybe a couple, maybe 3 orders of magnitude and so on, all of these years. But we need at this date, based on the current situation, maybe more than 5 or 10 orders of magnitude. This might require at least 20, 30 years until it's broken.
Okay,
right?
So hold on.
So this is from the cryptographer's perspective, this is what we believe. It's not something that will happen in 2029. Come on.
Okay, so why is Google raising the alarm? Why is Google saying, look, they flagged their own internal deadline to be quantum reliant or quantum resistant or to move to a post-quantum world by 2029? Why do you think that they sounding the alarm so early?
Exactly. That's the major question here. There are multiple factors for this. First one, most of the national agencies, for example, the National Institute of Standard Technology in the United States, a few others in the European Union, Australia, in different places, they have set some deadlines for all of the governmental entities or those who interact with governmental entities. They should switch to post-quantum algorithms.
Yes.
And this date is set on somewhere between 2030 to 2035. Imagine if you are a business, you are Google. Mm-hmm. You need to comply, right? How are you going to interact with governments, which means that 2029, before the 2030, where we start pretty much deprecating the old cryptography, and 2035, where based on the current guidelines, the governments will not allow you to interact with them, at least with some entities internally, you need to start making the migration. So 2029 fits very well into this deadline where it's set by the institutes, like the National Security Institutes, where Google, obviously, as a big company, in my opinion, have to start complying. And don't forget, when we're making changes in cryptography, it typically takes many, many years. So I believe what's happening here is we're preparing the ground. Google is not doing something harmful here. And at the same time, it's overstated and understated. It's preparing the ground. We need some big organizations to start this process until everybody is switching to the new algorithms. The cryptographer's opinion across the world is typically this will take a lot more, because if the institutes set the time on 2035, we believe that some companies will also, be sluggish on how they're going to do the migration. Some of them might take 10, 15 years, and then eventually we can go to 2040 or 2045, right? So starting a decade earlier, it's advisable for the healthy update of the ecosystem. So this is the reason, in my opinion, that Google has to make that change. Imagine if Google didn't do it.
So
and Google said, okay, we managed. Yes, okay.
I want to read something to you. It says, Google has led the responsible transition to post-quantum cryptography since 2016. In a new white paper, we show that the future quantum computers may break the elliptic curve cryptography, which is the curve cryptography that Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies use, that protects cryptocurrencies and other systems with fewer qubits and gates than previously realized. We want to raise awareness on this issue and provide the cryptocurrency community with recommendations to improve security and stability before this is possible, including transitioning blockchains to post-quantum cryptography, which is resistant to quantum attacks. To share this responsibly, we engaged the US government and developed a new method to describe these vulnerabilities via zero-knowledge proof. So they didn't even publish the vulnerabilities. They just published them via a zero-knowledge proof.
They didn't.
Yeah. So we can, let me just finish. So they can be verified without providing a roadmap for bad actors. We urge other research teams to do the same. We look forward to continuing our work, following our 2029 timeline alongside working with others on responsible approaches like Stanford, like Coinbase, Stanford, and a whole lot of others. So yes, you believe that they
what
just,
you see here, right?
they're over-preparing?
Well, obviously. Exactly. So this is what's happening here. We have to start from a big organization a few years earlier until we get some standards. We're learning from whatever the transition bottlenecks are, and then eventually all of the stack across the world, because it's not only the blockchain, it's also the digital certificates we're using, the green bar you see on the top of your like web pages, your email security, your WhatsApp security, all of these things, they should gradually start being replaced by the new schemes that we have. The algorithms exist, by the way. What is the reason that Bitcoin and Ethereum and all of the other blockchains haven't switched, right? Because the threat is not imminent even after this publication, in my opinion. This was not a new quantum algorithm. This was not a new cryptanalytic technique. This was not a new vulnerability on elliptic cryptography. It was, by orders of magnitude, it was not even a new lower bound, right? What was it? So they updated the quantum resource estimates. It's a more aggressive optimization compared to what we had before. The other thing is, like they create an end-to-end attack architecture, and this is the reason probably they wanted to protect also their circuit, because they have an advantage here. We're the first who created something slightly faster than the others. We're not switching orders of magnitude. Imagine if the previous best algorithm or best implementation was at 2,000 qubits, reducing it to 1,200 qubits is not a big order of magnitude. It's almost nothing, right? Imagine now with logical qubits where, as I told you, even 5, 10, imagine how many we need, how much progress is needed. The other thing is they provided a clear blockchain threat taxonomy. Okay, what do we have? I mean, if you are an investor now, do you have to be careful on when you're signing a transaction? Are you do you have to be responsible on MEV attacks? Like imagine if it's 9 minutes, as they mentioned, what if the Bitcoin block is taking 10 minutes, and then by the time you're signing a transaction to switch to the quantum algorithm, in these 9 minutes, someone managed to, front run your transaction and they managed to steal your key? Do you care about at-rest attacks like the Satoshi tokens? Do you care about the setup attacks, like all of the attacks during the wallet generation? What do you care about? In my opinion, they set the framework. So they're preparing the ground rather than, okay, all of these claims, 2029 is the end day, you shouldn't do it like after that time and all of this. In my opinion, this is a beep here. Too overstated from the Google side, in my opinion, but it will help the policy regulators, and we will also help the hardware timeline modeling. Imagine if you are Ledger, if you are Trezor, you need to start preparing yourself. That's why Google sets a deadline, because if you're now a hardware vendor, you will need a few years until you test everything that you're implementing. You need to comply with whatever Google is mentioning. Then you need to test, to audit. This will take also a few years afterwards. And in my opinion, this is the actual perspective here. Yes, Google decided to put the 2029 as a perspective. It fully aligns with the regulation guidelines, not the regulation, but the National Institute of Technology guidelines. At the same time, it's preparing the ground. If you ask the average cryptographer and people who are in this industry for many years, it might take 30 to 40 years for these things to break.
So I was about to ask you.
But transition, yes, transition takes a decade.
What's your best estimate? What is your best estimate? And I know you can't be accurate. How far are we from a real life quantum computer being able to crack Bitcoin SHA-256 algorithm?
It's not the SHA-256 algorithm. It's actually the signing algorithm, the ECDSA algorithm. This is another thing. How we're breaking hashes is a different game. For the signature itself, which means your wallet, getting your seed, and from your seed signing the transaction, someone else to be able to sign on behalf of you. I have a feeling that based on current humanity success and the progress, if it's possible, because I'm also putting an if here, It might take, I don't know, 20 years, 25 years until we have something that is meaningfully capable of doing that stuff. When I say that, this means that we have to start 10, 15 years earlier just to be able to withstand this thing, right? There is one question mark here, and I believe Google actually put it on their threat model. And do you know what is it?
Hardware.
AI.
AI, okay.
AI. It's AI. Before that, all of the estimations were happening based on human ability to be able to solve such engineering problems, how we are going to put all of this hardware under the ground, and you make it like immune from all of the cosmic radiation and all of this stuff, playing with photons, playing with atoms, and all of these things. But AI, humans almost created a new species, right? And at the same time, we have some unknowns here, how AI, AGI will impact the evolution of quantum computing. And this is the only problem. If you asked me 2 or 3 years ago, I would tell you that I cannot even see how it can break in by 2050. It's impossible. I cannot see any improvements, substantial improvements on the hardware acceleration of these things for all of this stuff to be breakable. Now, can you predict what AI can do in the next 10 years?
I can't
Probably
even predict,
not, right?
I can't predict what it's
You
going
have to
to
be
do
prepared.
tomorrow.
In my opinion, it's just a precautionary.
I can't even predict what AI is going to do
exactly.
tomorrow.
So the thing is where yes, it's exactly what I expect as well. There is this unknown these days where if AI is able to help the physicists, everybody who is doing quantum, to give them some hints on how they can progress better than we used to have in the past. We're still too far. I don't know if AI will be able, because when I say someone will break it, AI will break it. I don't know if AI will manage to go into the quantum computer and so on. In my opinion, the statements of 2029, everything is broken is super overstated. Give me one example. I want to even debate with Google like you now, that it is, they believe, like, honestly, put all of the grants aside that they get from the governments, from some VCs and from all of the other stuff to create some noise as well, that yes, there is a significant chance that this will break. The chance is so low that it's almost negligible that it will happen in the next few years. And this is important for people to understand, right? When Google sets the barrier at 2029, it has to comply with regulations. At the same time, it's giving some time for all of the startups who are also like believers of the new changes to have similar models and compatible with Google. And eventually we will have a different model for cryptography. This will take a decade at least. So all of the blockchains at the moment, Ethereum Foundation is doing some research how we're going to go post-quantum. The Bitcoin protocol is doing the same. Sui is doing the same. Solana is doing the same. And many others, Algorand and a few others. I think they're in correct path. We're cautiously working on some optimizations to continue having the transaction rate that we have today and the security, but also do not rush into implementing this stuff because the science itself is too far away from reality. It's a different thing when you're reading the paper and a different when you go and see a quantum computer.
So I have a few questions. I mean, the first question is, assuming that we find a solution on Bitcoin, let's just use Bitcoin as an example. What is the delay in, why do people say that the problem with Bitcoin is that it takes a long time to implement a solution? Surely once we've found a solution, we've mapped out a solution, then it goes down to coding the solution and then rolling it out. Like, why would it take so long to implement a solution?
Okay. By the way, the algorithms for secure quantum safe signatures is already known, right? We have three, 4 options that were selected from the competition, like post-quantum competition from NIST, and we know exactly what is going to be used. The problem with quantum transition is, in my opinion, twofold. One is we're talking about new cryptographic assumptions, especially those who are based on a new technology. It's not elliptic curves anymore, it's lattices, that we might want to be also cautious if these new structures, I mean, they're not battle tested, and you don't want to go there like being the first without giving an extra like 5-10 years of exploration from the cryptographic community, right? And obviously that would be a mistake. There is one approach, you go hybrid. So you're saying, all of the future addresses from now on Bitcoin, they should ensure that they're signing both with elliptic curve and the new quantum safe algorithm. So you need both of them to be broken for your system to break. But typically the quantum algorithms are slower and they're resulting to bigger transactions, like larger size on transactions. So the blockchains, by allowing the new quantum safe algorithms, they will be slower. And there is a question, how do you balance the security, perspective on the security, along with the speed of your blockchain and the size of the transactions and the blocks, plus audits? Who is going to do all of these audits? You see what's happening now with all of these supply chain attacks and a few other things. You have to be very careful on auditing these things properly. It's a big change, right?
So are you saying that
that's the reason? That's
it's a threat? It certainly is a threat that we must start preparing for, but it's not something that we need to panic about today.
Exactly. First, myself, do you want after this meeting to put in $1 million 𝗙𝗎 address there and ask people to break it? You don't need to go to Chainalysis, just get the money and go away. I give it to you. Come on, these things are overstated. And I'm telling you like the honest feedback, because you know me, Ran, right? I'm one of the first who implemented these algorithms, who also created some backwards compatible algorithms for the transition to post-quantum. And 𝗠𝗎 will apply these algorithms. But we need to be careful as well on when this is happening and not create panic to people, because there is no panic. Even myself, I have all of my Bitcoins, all of my 𝗠𝗎, some Ethereum that I had in the past, or Solana, all of the other things. I'm a Bitcoin maxi, as you know, since the very beginning. I don't feel the fear. I can also reveal my public key. And if people want, like even with you, I can create an address on 𝗠𝗎. I can even give you one like word for my seed phrase. So I make it even easier for you. Go break it. I don't believe it will be broken in the next 10 years at least. There is no way. I don't even believe it will be broken in 20 years from now. So this is to be tested. Of course, Google is doing a very good academic work to accumulate everything into one paper. In my opinion, it's super overstated, because at the same time, there is a lot of funding happening in this like quantum space. And obviously, all of the startups are a bit more like hyping the full potential, including myself as a cryptographer, that I want to create a new protocol. But let's see the reality versus preparation versus overstatement. And I stay in the middle.
Let me ask something. In terms of what Google's doing, are they actually testing a quantum computer, or are they testing models on a I want to use the word piece of paper. It's not really a piece of paper. But is it a white paper, or is it something that's actually working today? Is Google actually testing a quantum computer?
No. They do have a quantum computer, but I don't even believe they have more than just a couple of hundred of physical qubits.
So everything that they're doing is simulations?
This is actually on paper. There is some foundational theory on if this quantum computer existed today, it would be able to break Bitcoin in 9 minutes. If.
Now, what's the gap? What's the gap between
these quantum computers we have?
What's the gap between if and actually building the quantum computer?
Orders of magnitude. If you see the progress between 20,000 to like 2020, 2026, we managed to move, I don't know, a couple of orders of magnitude, and we're still 3-4 orders of magnitude away. I don't even believe this will happen. There are 3 estimates at the moment. Quantum startups say 10-15 years. Academic cryptographers say 25-45 years. And skeptical physicists might say never. Or possibly much longer. There was a paper very recently that said that there is a gap, there is a ceiling on how far we can go, even on the theoretical models, because we might not manage to control all of this noise that we have from the environment, right? And this thing is currently building on qubit fabrication, cryogenic control systems, error correction software, scalable architecture. Can you understand the scale of this thing? How we can make this thing scalable? Google has a like toy quantum computer. They can play with small number of qubits, but the claims there are assuming some hardware that doesn't exist today, and we don't see how it will exist.
So even if
not in the near future.
Even if their assumptions are right and they've cracked the model on paper, the route between that and actually building the computer is another order of magnitude.
Many orders of magnitude. When we say order of magnitude, right, we're talking about Yes, I mean, the gap is roughly, I don't know, 100x to 1000x from what we have today.
Unbelievable.
This is what we have. I mean, we're so much behind, right? On paper, look, if you are a theoretician in cryptography, obviously your work is to create the foundational models where the hardware developers and the scalability developers and the physicists can work on top of it by applying your algorithm. First, you need to create the algorithm. They optimize the algorithm, they optimize the number of gates, they optimize the number of qubits, but this is on paper at the moment. The misunderstanding here is people believe that Google created a new quantum computer, right? No, and Google was also very smart. Do not publish the circuit itself. I'm publishing a zero knowledge proof, which creates some extra hype. Wow, they're hiding something here. But come on, we just managed to reduce the number of gates and the number of qubits you're requiring, not by an order of magnitude, by some small degree. It's better than the other systems. I'm giving it to them, right? They did something better for the community. But all of this game of, in my opinion, like creating this overstatement, hype over what is possible today, I'm not saying it's on purpose, but imagine if you are a startup in this space, you will go on Twitter and you will say, oh, Google managed to break Bitcoin in 9 minutes. Even this 9 minutes. What is this 9 minutes, Ran? It means that there is a quantum computer so optimized that in particular, it can break this in 9 minutes. A fictional model now, right? If this thing existed, it would break it in 9 minutes. And I would say, oh, if a double powerful system existed, it would break it in 4.5 minutes. And if a 3 times system existed, it would break it in 3.
But the truth is,
these are all assumptions, right?
None of it exists. And even if it did exist, the computer to run these assumptions doesn't exist. And so we're very, very, very far away.
Where, in my opinion, from the practicality perspective, theory, yes, it's good to have an accumulated paper with all of the information you need to design the systems. There is no practical implementation yet, and we don't see how it will exist in the next few years, decades. There is another thing as well that I want people to also have some attention on that matter. Mm-hmm. If there was such a powerful computer, many other things in our lives would be affected. Imagine these systems could be used, for example, on AI. It could be used for trading. It could be used for, I don't know, analysis of some other phenomena that are having financial value. And breaking a system would also be something that people would actually care. But I don't believe it will be the first thing, right? So we don't see all of these years, all of these Satoshi addresses who are the most exposed being affected. As I told you, even myself, I feel so confident that I can put a challenge if people want, like with, I don't know, 1 million in dollar value of some address, even revealing a few bits of information about my seed. I don't believe these things will break anytime soon, right? At the same time, it's me that I'm still working on the transition even for 𝗠𝗎. We created the first quantum safe algorithm that is backwards compatible, so we can even protect dormant addresses. And I'm doing it in a way that is healthy and also safe for us to go into the transition, as Bitcoin is doing, as Ethereum is doing. Whoever is working on this transition, and believe me, I'm here. I mean, this is live. People will come back to this video again. If in the next 10 years something breaks, whoever will point me and tag me, I will give them $1 million without breaking anything.
Amazing. Kostas, listen.
The first one who will tag me. There is no way this.
There's no way.
There is no way this will happen.
Kostas, listen, brother, thank you so much. You've really, on a day where...
We have to be prepared, right?
Yeah. On a day where everyone wasn't calm, you've brought some calm and some peace to a lot of crypto holders. Thank you very much, my friend.
Yeah, likewise. And anybody who wants more information, just reply on your tweets, and I will have my mind today at least to go and give some answers, right? I don't see the threat that it's immediate. I don't understand why even Google is overstating. Maybe it's not Google, it's other startups who are building on top of it. I'm still standing on my original position. There is nothing to be scared, right?
Gotcha.
And I can even go 1-to-1 battle with Google if you want. If you can arrange it, I can do it as well. I don't feel fear on this.
Amazing. Kostas, thank you very much, my friend. Thank you very much. So, guys, on a day where, we were all stressed about the quantum threat, Kostas puts it into perspective for us. It really is a long time away. And to be honest, it is a threat, but it's not an immediate threat or something that should panic you into selling your coins. Just before I go, some love to two of our sponsors. One of them is already ZK compliant, and that is, post-quantum compliant, and that's ZK Sync. Now, this is they're already obviously post-quantum compliant, even though they are a layer 2 on Ethereum, and they're making a lot of progress when it comes to getting institutions. We keep tracking ZK Sync because they are making a lot of progress. The other one of our sponsors is, of course, CoinW. This is the second last day for the sign-up bonus. If you want to go and sign up, it's a non-KYC exchange. If you sign up, this is a super bonus promotion. So you deposit a certain amount of money and you get a certain amount of bonus, and then you can just trade the bonus and withdraw your money, guys. So that's simple. Guys, I will see you guys again tomorrow. Until then, trade well, my friend.